What happens when you take two serious anglers, drop them on an unknown body of water, and give them a mission to conquer the lake and each other?
Fish.
Two different patterns, one unknown lake, with no practice and no preparation. Who will catch the most fish and how? The only way to find out is to go commando. The mission is simple. Two experienced anglers. Two different battle plans. Going head to head on one unfamiliar body of water. Steve Pennaz takes us to the front line of fishing to learn the lessons of the Lake Commandos. What is it that drives a true Lake Commando? It's not 100 fish days or limits of wall-hanging trophies, because when you go commando, sometimes the fish win the war. It's the thrill of discovery that drives a Lake Commando, where a one-fish day, when it comes after hours of struggle, experimentation, and problem-solving, is a success. Today, Steve Pennaz faces off with a fellow commando who's been making a lot of headlines in the bass fishing world, Janet Parker, who in 2011 nearly became the first female angler to qualify for the Bassmaster Elite Series.
The fact that she is so knowledgeable on waters and bass from all over the country really helped us fine-tune the pattern today. Plus, she's a lot of fun in the boat.
Today's mission, tracking down scattered summertime largemouth. Sometimes a lake only gives an angler a handful of good choices of prime fish habitat. But there are others, like today's lake, that feature ideal habitat throughout. Here are the details. The lake is typical of many natural bodies of water found in agricultural regions. At 886 acres, it's of average size, with a max depth of 45 feet, but more than half the lake is less than 15 feet deep. Runoff from the surrounding farmland makes the lake highly fertile and reduces the water clarity to just over 4 feet. In midsummer, algae blooms are common, further reducing water clarity. Habitat is fairly one-dimensional and typical of this type of lake. This body of water is split into two sections, with a gradual shoreline break surrounding a deeper basin in each. Submergent and emergent weed growth is essentially the only defined habitat aside from man-made docks and boat lifts. Cover is off the charts, with researchers reporting over 40 different varieties of aquatic plants present, from dense submerged weeds like coontail and curly-leaf pondweed, to emergents like hardstem bulrushes, cattails, and lily pads along much of the shoreline. The primary forage is yellow perch and a variety of minnow species. Conditions are near perfect for a midsummer bass hunt, with air temps in the 80s, water temps in the 70s, and winds light and variable. That's the battleground the Lake Commandos are facing, and we're about to find out their plan of attack. But we want to know how you would fish it, so let us know online.
Well, since we're at a lake that I've never fished on before, one of my primary go-to techniques is docks. And the way I like to fish docks is a technique or a method that I kind of created called the J-rig. So today I'm going to be using the Fenwick Elite Tech smallmouth rod. This is a 7/4 medium action rod with the Pflueger President reel that I have the Berkeley spider wire in the camo coloring on, with a Trilene 100% fluorocarbon 15-pound test leader. To that, I have the real secret and the trick to the whole technique. I take a small hook, and then what I do is I take lead tape. Depending on how fast I want the fall or the rate of fall to be for my bait is the real determining factor on how much lead tape I use. The other important part is the way in which you rig your bait. Typically, for a wacky rig, people just go ahead and hook it like that. One of the ways I prefer to hook for the J rig is to parallel the hook shank with your bait. Your hook and bait is going to fall like this. It gives the bait a little bit more action. This is called the J-rig. This is what I'm going to fish on docks, and this is what I'm going to use to beat Steve today.
I'm going to leave the light spinning rod in the tackle box or in the rod locker, and I'm going to go power. This is an Abu Garcia villain rod, medium heavy. I've got an Abu Garcia 7.1 Retrieve STX Revo. I've got it loaded with 50-pound spider wire, and I've tied direct to a 6/0 hook. I've got it weighted so I can fish it fast. Now the longer rod is great when you're fishing top water because it does a couple things. One, it gives you more control of the bait. You can cast it out there and keep that line out of trouble. And when you hook a fish, you've got more control of that fish when it's in those heavy weeds. You want power. You hook the fish, you get them on top and get them out of there, or you're going to lose them. Now for baits, we're going to be fishing the power bait Chigger Toad, not the Chigger Craw, the Chigger Toad. It's a real heavy, thick plastic bait with the legs that really move. When you pull it across, it looks almost like a buzz bait, and you can fish it fast. Pause it in those little openings in the baits or in the pads, and when the fish hit, I tell you what, they explode on this bait. It's a lot of fun.
So it's Steve's pads and slop versus Janet's man-made docks. Steve gets the front of the boat first and heads for the heavy cover.
So in our count, are we strictly going to count bass?
You know what? We didn't cover that. Our goal today is to catch a trophy bass.
A trophy
bass.
Okay.
The plans are in place and the battle is underway, but sometimes the fish don't follow the plan. That's when you really have to go commando. Lake Commandos is brought to you by Abu Garcia, For Life, Trilene, Anglers Trust, Berkeley Trilene, Ranger Boats, still building legends one at a time, Spider Wire, nothing gets away, and by Fish Hound, when to go, where to go, what to throw. The Lake Commandos are on the hunt for trophy largemouth bass on a mid-sized, weed-choked farmland lake. Steve Pennaz is attacking the thick, shallow cover, while Janet Parker plans to find fish on docks. Figuring out the bite on a strange body of water is nothing new for Parker. As a successful tournament angler, she's faced with new water and a new challenge every time out. And she's good at it. In fact, in 2011, she came within 100 points and one solid tournament finish from becoming the first female angler to qualify for the exclusive Bassmaster Elite Series. Add that to a WBT win in 2009 and 5 Bassmaster Top 10 finishes, and Steve Pennaz has his hands full with a truly tested Lake Commando.
All things do not go as planned. There were some variables that we did not account for.
What I didn't count on was this stuff being so choked.
There's excuses. That's what my mama would say.
One of the things I found when you fish a new body of water is to actually have a game plan in mind, even if it's the wrong one like it was today. We figured we were going to fish shallow, we figured topwater, we figured docks, and we figured flat out wrong today. That was the wrong pattern for this lake. This moss or this algae clogs this up every cast. But when you come to a lake with a game plan, you work methodically. You eliminate water, you eliminate possibilities, and even not catching fish tells you something. I love every cast I've made so far. We've had one bass follow. We've had 2 blow-ups, not on our baits, but back in the stuff, and more than likely they're bass because they were big blow-ups, but I don't know, with this cold front, topwaters don't seem to be going. We got good high sun, we may need to switch.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it's to your pattern.
We really wanted to fish with our chigger toads, but because of all the algae, it just kept clogging up the hook and we weren't able to get the proper action out of our baits. Plus, we weren't getting bites, so we decided that we needed to form a different game plan.
I've officially given up on topwaters. We may flip a little bit later. Are you getting ready to fish the dock? All right. We had a cold front come through here last night. Water temp dropped about 5 degrees. And honestly, we're fishing northern bass. They're used to cold fronts. I figured the bite was still going to be pretty strong today, and it wasn't. We had to peck and scratch for fish. You know, Jenna, I'm looking at these docks. They're too shallow, and I think you agree? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I recommend we abandon pattern 1, we abandon pattern 2, and we go out to the deep weed edge and fish. I think I'm going to go to maybe a Texas rig worm or a jig worm. What about your thoughts?
Steve, I agree with you wholeheartedly. So let's go see what's behind door number 3.
I agree.
When we first went to the outside weed line, I went ahead and started throwing a Texas rig. I got a couple of bites, but they weren't eating it. So because they weren't eating it, but I was getting the bites, I decided to go ahead and change to a drop shot. I figured, you know, a more finesse presentation might get those fish to actually eat the bait instead of just pecking at it. Actually,
Had a bite. Was that a pike? Break you off? No?
No, didn't break me off. Unfortunately, that was not what they wanted. Steve actually, he got a bite on a point on the outside edge of the weed line on a point, and he actually went ahead and switched up to a lightweight Carolina rig, and that is when we got the first really solid bite.
You know, the first bite of the day is always the toughest one to get. We've been out here for 2 hours. We've worked a number of different spots. This fish came shallower than I thought. He came up on right on the tip of the point. Good fish, probably 2.5 pounds. I'm gonna let him go here. There he goes. You know, the toughest bite is always the first one, and it always tells you something. We found that fish right on the deep weed edge. Now, it's the third fish we've seen, the first fish we've caught. I went to a modified Carolina rig. I've got a light sinker on here, a little over 1/4 ounce. I've got a fluorocarbon leader of 10 pound, and this is a Havoc craw fatty. And I'm fishing it on a light wire hook. What I'm trying to do is go to a presentation that allows me to fish fast, at the same time cover a lot of water, but at the same time fish it sort of finesse. And the fact that we got that nice fish right there tells us that we're on the right track, at least that we're finding some fish on the deeper edge of the grass.
When you're a commando, the fish are never not biting. When the battle goes bad, you just fall back, regroup, and hit them from a different angle. This segment of Lake Commandos is brought to you by Yeti Coolers. Yeti, wildly stronger, keep ice longer.
You know, going commando is a mindset. It's an opportunity to test your abilities and push you beyond where you're comfortable. That's when you learn to grow as an angler and become better at making decisions on your feet.
Going to a body of water that you have no idea what to expect, it really does give you the feeling of going commando. You don't have the security of the knowledge that we would normally have before we go to a tournament body of water.
We're gonna lose you one of these times.
I'm as graceful as a swan with cat-like reflexes. Did you know that about me, Steve?
We had an activity period that started about noon, and it lasted till about 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Woo! Nice!
Not a bad one. Number 2 on the Carolina rig. Actually, it's more than number 2. I missed a really good fish and missed a bite, but I like the fact that they're that aggressive. He held on longer than he should have. I'm not at the top of my game today right now. But again, he came on this Carolina rig. This is that Havoc craw fatty. He tore the thing off, so I'm gonna put a new one on. Green pumpkin red fleck is a great color, especially in waters that have a lot of bluegills in them. I really like that bait right there, that green with red fleck.
Got one.
Got one? There we go. You know, I can say one thing, this lake's got some beautiful bass. I'm gonna get this rod out of the way. Nice.
Whoa.
Hey, nice fish. Nice, real nice. I love it. I love it.
One of the things I shared with Steve today was a tip or a little trick that I absolutely love, and it included a swivel. If you will put the swivel on your line before you tie on your hook, go ahead, put your bait on your hook, put the other end of the swivel onto the hook, and then go ahead and finish baiting plastic onto the bait. What that actually does is it prevents your plastic, when you get a bite, from balling up on the end of the hook.
Fish, fish.
Oh, fish.
Woo, he's spitting up craws.
Imagine that.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing, that belly hold, how that just shuts them down like that?
It does.
It just does. Nice right in the corner of the mouth. That's a perfect place to hook them. Chunky fish in this lake. I can't wait till a 21, huh?
Right.
He just glommed onto it. Oh. You know what? I'm jacked.
One thing I've learned, Steve, that's really critical and important is you have to be willing and ready to adjust.
The fish are telling you something by either biting or not biting or showing themselves. And we're making good decisions based on what we're seeing.
Right.
So we went from shallow to deep, we went from fast to slow, we went from a worm bait to a craw bait, and it's starting to come together now.
The Commandos have found a weakness in the bass's defenses. But can they get a big fish to surrender? We'll find out. Lake Commandos is brought to you by Yamaha Marine. Reliability starts here. Johnson Fishing. Yeti Coolers. Wildly stronger. Keep ice longer. Not too kinky. No kinks ever. And by Humminbird. Simply, clearly better.
Today we found fish on a deep water point. We were holding in 18 to 20 feet of water, casting up into 6 and 8. There were bulrushes off there, and the key for bulrushes is that they grow on harder bottoms. So by keying on the fast breaks with deep water access, the hard bottom that had bulrushes and not clogged with algae, that's the ticket to catching fish today. And the nice thing was we went to the Lakemaster map, looked broadly across the lake, and found 3 or 4 other spots that had the same exact characteristics.
They're definitely eating.
Thick, clean fish out of a healthy lake. Thank you, sir.
When you have 2 experienced anglers or novice anglers, if you will share your information, you will both end up being better anglers in the end, and you'll both end up having more success in future fishing excursions, everything. Good job. At this point, we know that we have the right bait. We know we have the right presentation.
Look at that one.
Now we just need to see if we can find more fish. So to do that, you have to cover water, and that's exactly what we started doing.
Can you grab them?
Oh, wow.
He ate that bait. Look at that. Right down his throat. Ah. Oh! Look at that one.
That's awesome.
Look at that. He ate that bait. A nice bass, huh? Gorgeous. Let him go.
All right.
You know, this technique we're using today is designed to cover a lot of water. It's just a small tungsten weight. I've got a bead there for a little bit of noise. I've got my main line tied to a swivel, and I've got a 10-pound 100% fluorocarbon from Trilene. I've got a 3/0 Mustad hook, and this is a Havoc and in green pumpkin with black fleck. And this is the bait that's been really good for us today. But I think the key is presenting this bait to a lot of different fish. They're not real active today. We're getting bit occasionally when we hit the right areas, but the Carolina rig is allowing us to cover a lot of water, putting this bait in front of more fish, and the more fish we put it in front of, the better we are. What a great day today. You know, we didn't catch gobs of fish, but I love a challenge, and today's lake was a big challenge.
I want you to know, I'm going easy on you. I'm going to let you win today.
Oh, you
That
are?
way I get invited back. See, it's a plan.
It is?
Yeah. No good Texas girl ever comes to a fight without a plan. I go commando, and I challenge you to do the same.
I'm Captain George Mitchell, and this is Coastal Chaos. I'll never forget my first 2-speed reel. Wow, what an innovation. But boy, have they gotten better since. Check out this Penn VS, it's a 50. With just a push of the button, I can go from my standard 3.1 to 1 ratio to a powerful 1.3 to 1. I use the lower speed when I need the power to move big, heavy fish. And if I need to get line back on the reel quick, I switch over to the higher speed option. A fight with a big fish can last for hours. Sometimes it's a struggle to get even an inch of line back on the reel. It's all about keeping steady pressure on the fish. Your goal is to never let them rest. But there are times when you're going to want to get the line back on the reel fast. Some species turn and run right at you. That's when you really appreciate the high-speed option. Choosing the right 2-speed reel for you should start with your target species and your region. We're about to take these bad boys out to the Gulf of Mexico in search of big yellowfin tuna. We'll be fishing kites, so we'll start with the 16. When the fish takes the bait and the line pops out of the clip, we got to get the slack in fast. Here's where the 16's 4.3 to 1 ratio really shines. Hey, a 2-speed reel is like a really good boxer that has a devastating 1-2 combination.